Let old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind. Let old acquaintance be forgot and I never do memorize the entire Auld Lang Syne. I've done it for years before too, and it's a fun little random factoid. I once rewrote Auld Lang Syne for a girl, a fine woman whose birthday was literally New Year's Eve, and so I thought it would impress her, which it slightly did. That relationship then ended pretty much before it started on the launch pad. Hello, everyone out there in post-apocalyptia. This is not EAST Corp speaking per se. This is SkyBolt, who's taking control of the PA system and is just sitting by himself in his office right now as the New Year blast wave has rolled over the last of the continental United States. Because even though Alaska is on the continent, it doesn't really count per se. Might sound like I'm drunk, but I actually don't drink. It just comes naturally to me to have somewhat random states of mind at times when it feels like drinking would be a really good idea. And I can read you, chat. Hello. I see three listeners anyway, and apparently 6 are watching. You may ask me what you want as you will. This is a little bit overdue anyway, because I've been owing the patrons more SoloCasts. My last SoloCast was in August, and that was fun. That was about like Sunset Shimmer and North Korea and whether or not synths were people. You'll have to become a certain tier patron to figure that out. Although the joke I formed and sort of still perpetuate is that Curie is basically a toaster that cries. But, it's cries of joy. It's because she's, like, French and stuff. That everything sounds very, like ooh, wee, wee, cry type. So, yeah. I don't have anything going on right now. And I've had so much sugar over the course of the night that I don't really see myself going to bed anytime soon, so I've decided to just start recording a train of thought and see if anyone enjoys it. I do have the Skype open. I'm not sure if there are any other people around right now. I could drop a message. If anyone's around, I'm shit podcasting. Okay, I have invited the masses, so we'll see what happens. In the meantime, how you guys doing? This is a train of thought. This is SkyBolt having too much time on his hands and nothing else to really do. So I'm here to ring in the new year for everyone out there that might actually be awake. And I know that can't be too many people because most of the world is ahead of us, most of the civilized world. And so unless you're some kind of like shark person that's like swimming in the Atlantic, you probably already had your new year and went to bed. It is the current year, echo, echo, echo. I'm not sure what that means, but it is the current year. Technically, I think it's the current year plus 3 because the original current year meme was like 2014 or something, or 2015. I'm trying to remember. It was a good year, though. Actually, every current year has been pretty good. It's been a fun time since memes overrode reality and we fully entered the singularity. I think 2018 will be better / worse than 2017 in the sense that we're in the like acceleration phase of the defragmentation of our simulation. So 2018 is either going to be really, really good or really, really bad. And that's essentially relative to whatever scale that you've been measuring it on for the past couple bit. And yeah, it's M&M's, in case you're wondering. I got a little random baggie of candy on my door. Probably shouldn't eat random bags of candy on my door, but this one was from a realtor, which is a very strange word, by the way. I still don't... I want to know what, like, root that comes from. Realtor. I always say it that way to be annoying, and also because that's how I learned phonetics back in the day. So hopefully this doesn't poison me. I remember those stories as a kid about, like, Halloween candy poisoning you. That was always a good time. I'm not sure if it... I'm not sure how many, like, stories of those were actually true. Like, I know there were a couple implications of, like a razor put in a candy bar and someone bit into it and that, you know, messed you up a little bit. I see in the chat, Skittles. You you don't mix Skittles and M&Ms. That is absolutely degenerate. Although I did have a friend once who, for it was a Halloween, he broke down. He unleashed all of the packs of Skittles, Reese's Pieces, and M&Ms. And to maximize the effect of the Reese's Pieces variable, he only limited it to the orange, yellow, and brown coated candies and mixed them all in a bowl together. And so you put a mouthful, and it's you know, it's all sorts of question marks on your tongue about what exactly you're eating. And not only that, but the core density of all three candies is very different. So you've got the Reese's Pieces, which is like the soft core. Maybe this isn't the best analogy. Okay, so you've got soft core Reese's Pieces. I'm going to try not to make a net neutrality joke. And then you've got the harder core M&Ms, especially if you have an M&Ms like what I just ate that could be poisonous, which were peanut-filled M&Ms. So actually, that could be a weapon in and of itself. If your peanut M&M is like, you know, if your body's not made to peanut, you know. I've heard some really messed up, like, peanut stories. You can really, if you have a peanut allergy, it can mess you up bad. Like, this was a story from a school in my neighborhood that I almost went to but didn't. And they had a huge cafeteria for, like, all the students. You know, it's just herd all the American public school children into a room together. And someone on one side of the lunchroom, they crack open their PBs and J, their peanut butter jelly sandwich, because, you know, that's a good standard, like, stereotypical school lunch. I've had that a decent amount of times, but apparently that was enough. They were within the blast radius of some kid who had a very like level 5 peanut allergy or whatever the scale is, and supposedly he dropped dead, like, right there. He smelled the peanuts and, like, his body decided that it wanted to die. So, moral of the story is peanuts aren't nuts. They're legumes. I don't know, like, how this, like, naming system gets put into play, but you can't just call things nuts if they're not nuts, you know? It's gotta, there's like a system. And if you don't follow the system, it just confuses everybody. So anyway, back to hardcore. If you have an extra hardcore peanut M&M, like with peanut in the middle, that's another variable when you're eating your candy surprise, you know. But then on top of the hardcore M&Ms, you've got Skittles, which are even harder core. They're like, Skittles are like the death metal band that have the name on the cover of their album that is such a mess of like scribbling that you can't even tell whether you're looking at, like, a very edgy Tangela or Tangela, whatever the Pokemon's name is, or like a rose bush. It just looks like nonsense. And then you see some Good Samaritan, like, color in certain lines so you can read the word, and the word is probably something explicit that you can't read on, like, the normal FCC airwaves anyway. And then you're like, was this necessary? Like I get the idea that fonts are Excuse me. That was a hardcore right there. I get the idea that fonts are supposed to be like, you know, fonts are the clothing of words. You know, it gives everything its style. You know, you put some nice sans titties on there, or you want to go full serif, which is, you know, to each their own. I'm not going to judge. Or you can combine them too, but the point is, like, you can't just like that kind of font style. That's like the fashion show of clothing of words, you know, like where it's something so ridiculous that no one actually like wears it because you can't even tell what's going on. Like, if the font styling has made the word illegible to the average person, then you've gone too far. You need to pull it back a bit. And there are memes that handle this explanation better than me. It's the meme where like every face gets more like excited about what they're looking at. I think it started out with that WWE guy that does like the crazy stride. Anyway, so those fonts they're too far. And anyway, the Skittles are like the harder core. It's like those bands, but of candy core density. So then when you combine all of those in your mouth, it's although they all break at different points, you know, because the average jaw has like a certain pressure, like PSI, or I should say pascals, because most of the world is more civilized than us and uses standardized metric system. So you have a certain amount of pascals distributed across the surface area of your teeth. And so when those interact with the surface density, the core density, what is the word? It's not stress or strain. It would be column strength, I think. I'm thinking back to my mechanics of materials class. The column strength to then break down each of the three candies. It's like each one of them is going to cross that breaking threshold at a different point. So it's like your mouth is just closing in all sorts of weird, different ways. And then finally, when the hardest core, the illegible letters, deathcore album band version of the candy breaks, then your teeth finally close, and it's just a mess. You know, it is a very clever way to prank someone, but at the same time, yeah, it could cause real damage. We're talking total dental hypoplasia here. But it is a funny joke, and my friend did that too. It was very successful, especially when you get like, it was some kind of or not flavored, but like it was a colored Skittle pack, so it did have brown Skittles. I forget what they were. I think they were like the grape Skittles, but it was weird because it's like Halloween or something. I should probably get back to the chat because there's actually people here. Happy New Year to random people. Yes, I expect actually most of the old world, the Primus Meridian is already waking back up again on January 1st. And hopefully most of you have it off as some kind of like public holiday or something. That's what at least we have. It's my last day of my 10-day holiday break, which is nice. It's been an interesting break. Got a lot of writing done and some migraine days that I just kind of like played Fallout 4 and did nothing else. On a side note, there's a Fallout 4 Xbone mod because I'm a filthy console peasant. There's a Rampage Xbone mod, as in Project Over the Horizon Rampage. And the character herself, the humanized version, is actually okay. You know, it's not like that. It's not like an Uncanny Valley, you know, anthropomorphic horse character, which is like always the worst marketing when like Fallout Equestria fans interact with normal Fallout fans. It isn't like that. It's like a normal human raider Rampage. And it's okay. She's got like neat armor. She's like a ginger, so you know the lack of soul is reflected between the novel and the video game. And she doesn't have a voice yet, but she also doesn't have a very, you know, necessary line of code where she can actually become your follower. Because I tried to make her follow me several times from Aberdeen Farms or whatever that one farming community is, and she wouldn't follow me. And then even worse, if you like show up randomly and she hasn't followed you yet because she won't follow you, then she'll start randomly attacking all the people at the Aberdeen Farms or whatever it's called. And it's just a hassle. So it's like I'm about to just turn off the mod until, you know, gets fixed up and she'll actually follow you and also potentially have a voice, because there's like written dialogue, but I don't expect the mouth to move, of course. That's really defined like character action, but like you don't even hear a voice, and that's kind of disconcerting. I'm not a Project Horizons like aficionado anyway, so I don't know what kind of voice she would have, but yeah, it's a neat character. She's also, I don't know if this is relevant to like the story, but she's also on the shorter side. I'm not sure if that's like part of Project Horizons, but she's like, I don't know, like not Little Pip tier, but like, you know, like the 5.2s rather than the 5.6s. Oh, sorry, metric conversion, that'd be what? 156 to the 160s rather than like Little Pip would be like what? 145 and below. Yeah, so back to the chat then. I've done this before. Huge drinking. Yeah, you guys are probably in a much better place with a certain amount of blood alcohol going on. For me, I'm just high on life. It's been a good couple of weeks and a good year overall. And I'm still burning off the last of the sugar in my body until I go to bed or whatever. So you're getting this random stream, which is also sort of like a solo stream that I've been owing to the patrons for a little bit, so I'm sorry about that. For the patrons, too, if you hopefully have access of going back through the old archives, because some of my solo podcasts from like earlier in the year are pretty quality. There's like, I think the first one's from like February, and then there's a March, April, May. And I think they're overall pretty fun streams, especially that first one. I talk about like Vidya game music, and I talk about the differences between all the different Fallout and Halo game musics, and my opinion of them and what kind of like emotional musics they're trying to get across. Because that's one thing I think is really interesting about, like, especially now that a lot of like, you know, new big orchestral scored music is being generated by like movie productions. So, you know, you take one of the most famous, like John Williams, who's got like one of the most, you know, legendary scores of the modern film age in Star Wars. But his last couple, it's like, I don't know if he's just run out of ideas from, you know, Forced Awakening and The Last Good Jedi. And I don't know. My current theory, because I'm already biased against the House of Mouse now, is that there wasn't enough emotional depth. There was not enough there for him to build a compelling soundtrack around. And so he's just kind of phoning it in. It's really sad. I mean, you think about just a few years ago, I forget to what level he contributed, but he contributed to the themes of Harry Potter and the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and of course his magnum opus in the prequel movies. Still, it's, if you get the Revenge of the Sith soundtrack, it's like a best of Star Wars medley. The entire soundtrack is really solid quality, top to bottom. It's like, you know, if you're on a desert island and you only have access to a single Star Wars soundtrack, you want to go with Revenge of the Sith, because he, of course, brings in all the motifs from the prequels, and because that's the linchpin, you know, bring it all together movie, it's got all the best motifs from the original trilogy also. But of course, the smart music aficionado would pull the quality individual tracks from every album, like I did, and add them all together in a playlist. And so you know, when you've got your original binary sunset track from the first Star Wars, or you've got the Imperial March from Empire, or what's good about Return of the Jedi? The Leia tracks in Return of the Jedi are really quality, but also the final Battle of Yavin / Throne Room super medley is really good. And then there's of course, from episode 1, you've got Duel of the Fates, which is, I mean, it's like, for me, I think most of us, millennial whatevers, growing up with the prequels, that was almost the Star Wars theme was Duel of the Fates, with, that echoed through all of the prequel movies. And I still think it's some of his best work in all of the prequel trilogy. Not too much from Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones really is, the second lowest point in the series, except for bottoming out like it has with The Last Jedi. But it's like, I don't know. And then, of course, Revenge of the Sith has quality stuff, too. But it's like, Force Awakens was too soft for me. Like, the Rey theme was very soft, very delicate. Like, I kind of get it, where, it's like she's the simple, humble girl from desert backwater planet, and I will give Rian Johnson credit. The subversion of her not being related to anyone is clever. If they would have, made the reveal and explanation of it more significant, the idea that only Kylo Ren is left as, this great Jedi. Maybe he did kill off the Knights of Ren or something. They could have had a great line in there of him talking to her, they all started to challenge me, so I had to kill the rest of them as well. Or something. And the concept that the Force, self-corrected. So yeah, the prophecy of, the one who would restore balance to the Force in Luke Skywalker. But really, it's by killing his father, then Luke becomes the only thing left as the good side. So then Kylo Ren starts rising as a new dark prime, a dark pole of the Force. And then when Luke, gives up completely and goes off to, die on Skellig Michael Island, then Rey, the Force manifests within Rey to make her be able to rise to the power of Kylo Ren to restore balance. I actually really like that idea. That's really cool and spiritual in a way that I don't think neither Rian Johnson nor JJ intended, to be honest. I don't think any of them are putting that much thought into this series. Not all of their thought is into what hexacode color freaking whole Admiral Tumbler's hair is going to be. I'm so excited to see all her disciples. She's going to be like Ramona Flowers, where all her disciples will have oh, you're the red-haired, Star Child, and you're the blue hair, and you're the green. How that one thing that I thought about after watching more hate reviews of The Last Jedi was the whole idea of the YOLO hyperspace shot is really, the scene was really cool, but just like everything in The Last Jedi, the underlying logic behind it is horribly series breaking, because now it you've got thousands of years of hyperspace technology where it's there's no way someone hasn't tried this before. I mean, this is is someone in their freaking Japanese Zero bomber, pile driving his way into an aircraft carrier, which, yeah, that did some freaking damage in the war, which is, I guess, more or less what this could be a reflection of. But it's in the context of the Star Wars universe, how has no one tried this before? You think, what it should be in the logic of the movie, how they could have fixed this, is you can't just hyperspace jump right through a ship because of shields or some crap. Or, because they're converting to, super light particles or whatever, where they phase through it, which is... various sci-fi movies have defined it. You're in a different dimension, so you pass through stars and stuff without damage. I'd be interested to see where what Mass Effect did with that, because I know I know for them it was they had the mass drivers, zippity doodad everyone from quadrant to quadrant. But it's like, do they exactly point through a section of dark space, or can they shoot you through stars and stuff and it's okay because you're like a super particle until the other one catches you? I don't know. That'd be interesting to see. Anyway, so what I would do to fix the logic of that scene is make it so that normal starship shields can block that. So it's like a small ship, like an X-Wing. You can hyperspace jump through an X-Wing and destroy it, but the returns aren't enough, even if, well, I don't think TIE fighters can hyperspace jump, but if you have like an advanced TIE, like I think Vader's TIE could hyperspace jump. If you had Vader's TIE, like YOLO through an X-Wing, it's like, okay, you killed the X-Wing because its shields weren't strong enough. But like any ship of decent size, there should have been a whole line about like, oh, with the shields, you can't do that. And so then you could have taken Finn and Rose's whole really stupid, casino planet subplot and made it about them trying to shut down the shields of the Star Destroyer so that they could YOLO through it. I don't know. But there's too many other parts of the movie that you'd have to rewrite too. So, okay, I'm going to go back to the chat now. See what people are saying. Now that I don't have James to stop me from my monologuing now. Porn, the best and worst part of the fandom. Yes, absolutely. This is this corporate banana logo was something I actually created at Stabletech because it's a very, very old joke that I stole from Gus Sorolla, because way early on in their podcast he made the joke about how they all had like BS names within Rooster Teeth, and his was Corporate Banana. And it just was a funny name. And for a short time, there was a meme within Stabletech where everyone had names of themselves after food. And so I was a little bit proud to have set that in motion. So yeah, so then as Corporate Banana, I Googled and found this picture of something going on with Celestia and that banana. It's a very large banana. And I photoshopped the word corporate on there, and bada boom, stuck the logo in the corner, and now it's marketing. I like the older Star Wars. Had a chance to play the Old Republic games. See, I did own KOTOR 1, but I never got through it. I suck at video games in the general sense. Like, I did own Fable 1 also, but in both cases, I think I only got to like the 25% of the way through the game, and then I don't know, a pure form RPG like that is a little bit too slow for my average video game attention span. Fallout's different because it's sort of just it's a open world shooter that has RPG elements sprinkled on top of it. So like if RPG is icing, Fallout 3 is a muffin, and Fallout New Vegas is like a ridiculous cupcake. This is on the Pinky to Derpy scale. Is Derpy would be Fallout 3 and kind of Fallout 4, and Pinky would be New Vegas, which sounds incredible. Could you imagine just like everything about New Vegas was the same, and then you had Pinkie Pie at 4 feet high or 1.2 meters high, just pronking her way through the desert. Like, could you imagine that as like a Legion, scout or like NCR at some outpost, and you're just like, what the actual fuck? It's like, the Wasteland kicks out some weird stuff, but do you think that would stop you for a second? Okay, also in the chat, he's just a Porg boy from a Porg family. Yeah, I made a joke to James, which is a little bit cheeky, is a little bit of South Africa joke, but I said if I had the chance, I would don a pith helmet, and like a Victorian era pith helmet, and a Martini Henry rifle, and I would go to Michael Skellig Island and hunt every last Porg to extinction. And once the last Porg was dead, I would turn that into like a Thanksgiving, or what's the Star Wars equivalent? Like a Life Day. I'd turn it into a Life Day dinner and eat it at frickin' Chewbacca's house with his whole family. Oh my gosh. I think what I hate the most about the Porg, well, I hate everything about the Porgs, but so Disney at one point, or maybe it wasn't Disney, but at some point someone made the excuse that the reason Porgs exist are because Skellig Michael Island has a bunch of puffins on it, and I reject that logic on the face of it. There's no reason why on-set filming the existence of a few bird creatures would then necessitate you having to add a whole new species to like cover it up. Because first of all, the new creature you'd have to use to cover them up would have to be of equivalent size or greater. And for anyone who knows what a puffin is, it's kind of like a penguin, dodo looking whatever. It's got a big beak. So something like a Porg that has the Porg would be like a pug version of a puffin. It wouldn't work, because if you're looking at it from any angle besides dead on a puffin, the Porg overpaint wouldn't work. You're like, okay, so that's kind of BS. So the next question is, and on top of that, normal filmmaking, you have a ton of different scenes. The puffins would be scared of the set. I have a hard time believing, you what a film set looks like behind a camera. You've got all these people in jackets, and you've got a tent, and you've got the camera and the crew and the sound and lighting and gaffer. It's like, no, they're not going to come anywhere near there. One grip with an air horn right before the scene starts, and all the puffins would scatter. But if somehow puffins kept landing in the shot during the scene, well, then as long as the camera's in the same spot, you can just interlace scenes where, like, you paint, say a puffin lands at the bottom right corner of the screen. You take footage from like a few seconds earlier and you loop it over that bottom right corner so that the puffin's not there anymore. And then you don't have to create the Porg. So that's the visual aspect where I don't accept that explanation on the face of it. Second, let's say it's a sound thing. Let's say the puffins are always making weird noises in the background, and that's why they had to come up with the Porgs. Okay, that might have been an excuse in like the 70s. And if that were the excuse, then the Porgs would have to sound exactly like the puffins, or like literally just like, they put a puffin in, or a Porg in the shot every time you hear a puffin in the recording. Now that's BS on the face of it, because like, what is it, 90% of films, the audio is redone after the fact in ADR. You think like Luke and Rey had like a little like sound pack on their belts while they were crawling all over Skellig Michael Island? No. I mean, well, maybe, but and the camera sound and stuff, but in the general sense, they then overdub the recording after the fact in like, a studio like Pinewood or Los Angeles or something. So I don't accept that explanation for Porgs either. So finally, we come to the real reason, the actual reason that Porgs are there, and it's to sell fucking toys. It's so they could crank out a ridiculous amount of freaking plushy Porgs, which I will admit, a Porg in plushie form is okay. They are relatively cute because, of course, they are Disney Imagineer engineered to be cute by like the best team of propagandist cute designers in the world, and and the big ridiculous eyes, and it's like, but the thing is, when they're live, when they're actually in the movie, the voice doesn't have a proper cuteness ratio to the eyes alone. And the other thing too is that when it's got its mouth closed, it maintains that cuteness ratio, but it crosses the threshold back into Uncanny Valley when it opens its big fat freaking yap. And, you just want to like shove a lightsaber handle, or what is it, hilt, right the fuck into its mouth when it opens to scream and solve the problem. Here's the other thing, like Star Wars, like, as soon as Chewbacca saw the Porgs looking at him, the real Chewbacca, George Lucas Chewbacca, would have taken a giant fucking bite out of the Porg. That's how Star Wars scene would have gone, and then those three would have freaking scattered. And you know what else that would have solved? That would have also meant that the other reason why Porgs are definitely not just there to cover up for puffins on Skull of Michael Island is that then you have like these Porgs all over the fucking Millennial Falcon. Every time it's on screen, it's like 3/4 of the shot. You have this little freaking orange monstrosity screaming in your face. So for someone like myself who wants to personally hunt the Porgs to genocide, every time you're in the Millennial Falcon, screaming in your face is just yet another middle finger placed in the movie to all original fans of Star Wars. It's like, what's one of the original complaints of the original trilogy is that a lot of people were not happy with the existence of Ewoks. It's like, okay, at least Ewoks were given some level of plot significance. With these Porgs, it's just annoying. It's like if you decided to like spray paint like bright pink on random things in the scene just as a distraction. It's horrid. Yeah, so the Porgs were too much for me. It was a little bit too much for me. I forget what led into this. I know it's just Star Wars in the general sense. We should watch the Star Wars Christmas special back to back. We should do that. That would be fun. It's yeah, it's actually like the oldest piece or second oldest piece of like Star Wars non-movie canon was the holiday special. I think there was like one book that came out before then, but it's like it's still kind of canon, I think. The holiday special is a gem, and it should be treated as the gem it is. Actually, the Hollywood special, the holiday special as a movie is a better film than The Last Jedi because it has more entertainment value. Especially the scene where there's like the grandpa Wookiee and he puts on the Sony VR headset and like and the pretty lady starts singing to him and he makes weird grunting sounds. That's that's something only George Lucas Star Wars would do. Could you imagine Disney putting... Well, then again, I can't say that, because now Disney has given us the scene where Luke Skywalker, in probably his most infamous scene in all of cinema, it personally goes up to this very awkwardly, like, bipedal, like, ocean giraffe that has 4 very human-looking titties right on its crotch, literally crotch tits, and like taking a big hold of one of them and milking it of the blue milk. First of all, I do not accept that as a fun little tongue-in-cheek explanation of the source of blue milk, because nothing about that creature looks like it survives on a desert planet like Tatooine, and that's like the only place we've seen blue milk up until this point. I'm sure if you went back in time and talked to, 32-year-old George Lucas, he would have said something like, the blue milk comes from the hairy beasts, and you got to be a certain kind of sand creature to milk the what is it? It's like the giant is it the banthas? Is that what they are? There's like the super woolly mammoth things that the Tusken Raiders ride. Like, that should be the source of the blue milk. Something that's at least somewhat native to Tatooine. Oh yeah, that's another thing about Last Jedi. So now we actually see Krayt. Like the Krayt dragon is like this famous, that's the skeleton from the original Star Wars, and it's like, it could just be a species of dragon, but now like they're actually going to show a planet that they call Krayt, and you don't even show one of these things that are called Krayt dragons. Like, did Rian Johnson just walk up to like Pablo Hidalgo and be like, hey Pablo, I need like a monster name? And Pablo's like, What do you mean? Just like any monster? Like, yeah, just talk about some of the monsters in Star Wars. And then Pablo Hidalgo was like, dies on the inside. And then he's like, well, I mean, where do we start? There was the Crate Dragon. And then Ryan Johnson's like, perfect. And then he leaves. He leaves Pablo Hidalgo in, eternal misery. And then he just goes in and he's like, okay, you're going to call the planet Crate. And then Kathleen Kennedy is like sitting in her office regretting all of her decisions for the last 5 years. At least I hope that's what she's doing. I really, really hope that's what she's doing. The third is when I go do my dream job lifestyle. I'm back to reading comments again. Y'all should get together and watch... Oh, yeah, I guess Chewbacca... Was his family technically killed? I thought at the end of the holiday special, they go to the Life Day thing, and, like, very unfortunately, like, right after the car accident, Luke Skywalker is like, Happy Life Day, everyone. And Carrie Fisher, who's probably, like, spinning on cocaine, sings the little Life Day song that was written by... some intern at that Toronto studio that actually put together the holiday special. You know what else is unfortunate? Now that Disney has this, like, compunction to kill the past, kill it if you have to. So with every movie in this new trilogy, we won't get to watch one of our favorite, original Star Wars characters get killed in a very disrespectful and unbecoming way. And now, before they could even get a chance to kill Princess Leia in some horrible, stupid way, I don't know, maybe it was like her intention. She just up and dies herself, which is very unfortunate. Rest in peace. But like, now it's just shitty. They've set up this whole idea of just kill all the original characters, and now they're gonna have to write her off screen unless they give, some kind of Admiral Tarkin, or not Admiral, Grand Moff Tarkin kind of like, face scene where they have one last bit with her and then they kill her in some respectable way. I actually personally, I don't know what Carrie Fisher signed as far as contracts or whatnot, but I would, if it were me, I would rather have that. I'm like, okay, CGI, MacGuffin together my face and give me one last good looking scene and then send my character off like in a memorable way. Like, for instance, what was it called? Fast and Furious 7, or was it 8? When Paul Walker? When he died, and so they were able to get his brother, who looked really close to him, and bring him in and be like the last, like, that drive-off scene where him and, I almost said Vince Vaughn, him and Vin Diesel, they drive down the roads that, like, part ways. That was very respectful, and that felt like, a family, a cast that had been together for all these movies that really love and miss Paul and wanted to do the best they could to send him away. That's like Monty Ohm's brother taking over for the character of Lai Ren, after he passed. And it's like, I obviously I don't know if Carrie Fisher has a sister or someone like that could dub for her voice, but it's like, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, the Tarkin stuff didn't bother me in Rogue One. I mean, the young Carrie Fisher stuff, that was, I feel like they put the most money into her than they did Tarkin, unfortunately. But at the same time, what's the guy's name? I just looked it up too. The actor has such a weird shaped head. It probably is kind of tricky to CGI sometimes. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I'd rather have them do some kind of, CGI Frankenstein kind of thing like that and kill me off in a dignified way rather than, like, some on-screen, like, cut to black. Like when Luke asks, like, what happened to Han? And then it cuts to black and you have no, like, no chance for for, you know, esteemed actor Mark Hamill to put his range to work and express Luke Skywalker learning that Han died on the other side of the universe, fighting in a battle that Luke really should have been in also, and the, you know, the emotions of uncertainty and regret and sorrow and everything. And, you know, but obviously, you know, Mark Hamill wasn't playing Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, because that obviously wasn't Luke Skywalker. I mean, hell, I've been listening to the Dark Empire, whatever, the first Timothy Zahn book that's set after the Return of the Jedi. And the actor who's like reading the book, he's actually an incredible voice actor. Like, he really nails a solid version of Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and C-3PO and others like that. And then, you know, he does the girl characters in the same kind of way like I do girl characters when I do those demos on my channel for Terminal Secrets. But I mean, you know, it's acceptable. It's within normal audiobook parameters. But it's like when he has the chance to actually do, you know, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo voices, he really nails it. I gotta give the guy credit. I forget his name, but that's the 20th anniversary edition. So I don't know if that's different from the original, but dude did a good job. I hope they brought him back for the rest of the Timothy Zahn books. I don't know what to do anymore. Should I go get candies, watch every Star Wars, or go to sleep? You should go get candies and use them to fuel your body so you could watch every Star Wars. Oh, so in the canon, the right after Life Day is when the Empire BTFO'd Kashyyyk and enslaved all the Wookiees? Oh, that's fucked up. Why would they make that canon? That's like, Merry Christmas! And then you wake up on Boxing Day and you've got like a bunch of stormtroopers like boxing you into boxes. Oh, maybe that's where Boxing Day comes from. Or that's like a pun. Like, you know, George Lucas sitting in his office like, Boxing Day, I'm gonna put you in boxes. It's after Christmas. Oh, I hope that's canon now. That is great. Yeah, old Star Wars was pretty quality. Like, I am like halfway through this first Timothy Zahn book, and I didn't think about it at first, but there's like the part where they're talking about how this crazy quote unquote Jedi they found is a clone of some Jedi that's actually been killed, who was killed by Admiral Thrawn. Spoilers, by the way. And it wasn't until like much later, like listening, that I started thinking like, wait a second. This is way before the prequels or the Clone Wars or anything like that. There was there was no none of them had any idea what the clones would turn out to be, or what like George Lucas would finally settle on making the clones be. So this was like their first really you know, attempt at like using that in more Star Wars stories, besides being a throwaway line where, so you've got this like secret cloning facility where they're cranking out counterfeit Jedi and Sith or Greys or whatever. That's you know, that was probably like mind-blowing, revolutionary for the young Star Wars fans that first heard those books in when they were released or read those books. Like that must have been magical for them. It is a bit weird in a post prequel world. Like, you know, as a filthy, technically millennial, I never experienced that. I grew up and I saw the original movies, but like then number one came out like when I was when was I? I was like 7 or something. So I had no concept of what Star Wars could have been before then, and I wasn't like I you know, didn't read through any of those books. Those books might have been a little bit too adult for a 7-year-old. But then again, by age 7, I'd already seen RoboCop, which I also just watched tonight. So, you know, all things are relative. Oh, did the stream stop? Don't stop stream. I'm having fun. I think it's okay. All of a sudden, I'm reminded of the Star Wars novels, fighting zombies on an abandoned... See, all that sounds really interesting. I can't wait to get that part. It's like I'm going to go through the Timothy Thrawn. I'm going to go through the Timothy Thrawn trilogy, and then after that, meander my way into, I think it's called the New Jedi Order series, which is essentially I want to read the series that has the whole Mara Jade and the love story, and then their kids growing up, and the Jason Solo and all that good stuff. That's what I really want to read about, because I've read about all those things in pieces, in like different snippets from Star Wars books and on Wikipedia, but it's like I want to experience that for the story it is. So now it's like I just got through the scene in Dark Empire or whatever where you had Mara Jade talking to like her boss, this is like random raider chieftain, and then the scene where she like she like is waiting in Luke Skywalker's room while he's sleeping, which is like, it's a really interesting way of writing it, where like right off the bat you're like plugging in the sexual tension. So yeah, it worked out pretty well, at least so far. Then again, I know the end game, a full 20, 30 years after that was written, so it's like I can. And yeah, I'm pretty much full on just rejecting all of the Disney canonicity. Like, I know they did, like, put a gun to Timothy Thrawn's head and told him to write a new Zahn book. Yes, I know I messed that up, as on purpose. But I really have literally zero faith that that is as good as his original books, and it's probably like, that they forced him in a box on Boxing Day and told him to make Admiral Thrawn work in the context of the pre-original trilogy era so that we can squeeze him in Rebels to get views. And here's the other thing, like, unfortunately, I didn't get into the Clone Wars series until after it ended. Like, so many things in pop culture I don't pick up on until, like, they end. I did actually see the original, like, in theaters, the cartoon, like, kickoff movie, where you've got, they introduced, Ahsoka, and they go after the purple Boba Fett, like, not Boba Fett, the purple Hutt, like the cousin or uncle or whatever he was, the very the New Orleans party guy. He's a great character. He looks like he looks like someone got like a kid's toothpaste, like probably like a My Little Pony toothpaste, like Twilight Sparkle or something, and squeezed out a dollop on the ground, where it's got just the same shape and the bright purple coloring and the sparkles, and that's your Star Wars villain. He was a great character, though. I love that voice, that like really like high Creole voice. That's why, like, what's coming up in the mutants anthology or whatever, now, like, Disney owns that too with 20th Century Fox, right? So they could just like squeeze that on into the Marvel universe with no problem properly. So that might be the only good thing about Disney buying 20th Century Fox. Oh dear God, I do not like the soft monopoly going on. But anyway, so in like this New Orleans culture, I hope they don't screw up the Gambit movie. I know they've got frickin' the Channing Tatum, the Channing Tatum as Gambit, which I don't know how I feel about that. I really liked the guy who played Gambit in the terrible Wolverine movie. He was fun, and I thought he played the character well. So I don't know. They better treat Gambit well, because that's a fun character. Back in the comments section, good night everybody. Getting too addicted to hearing him. That's right, you gotta listen to me talk. You see, like, I can do this all night. Like the original like podcast, they exponentially grow in length, just like the Confession series, where it's like the February one I did was like 20 minutes long, and then the next one I did was like 45, and I was also like really fucking depressed on the second one, so it's really surreal sounding. And then the one after that was normal, but that was like an hour and a half. And yeah, and then I did the 2 video casts, the one that you saw that's public, that's me talking about like a whole bunch of random stuff, and then there's the one that's behind the paywall, which is like it, with all the video, like random color filters and stuff, and and they're both within that like 40-minute range, and that was because of the visual limitation. It's a lot of energy to edit and do video stuff like that, and I don't have the time or energy to do that. It is so much easier to have a stream of consciousness like this and do random bullshit, and I think it's kind of fun, you know. And I'm still full of sugar, and I can't fall asleep right now. So, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so obviously, you know, Timothy Zahn is being kept in some kind of like, you know, concrete bunker deep below the Matterhorn in Disneyland, which is or probably, you know, they transferred the bunker down below Star Wars Island or whatever the hell we'll call it, because I think they're building the Star Wars land over like the Critter Kingdom, like the Tom Sawyer like loopy ride. I don't know. I'm going to Disneyland in like 2 years when it's going to be done. So hopefully it's cool. I don't know. I read a story about what the original plans were to make, instead of before California Adventure, they had plans to make like Westcott, like an Epcot but West. And of course it was going to be a little different and interesting, but the city of Anaheim has apparently had it with Disney's shit, and they basically told them no for various reasons, and so that project's like died in the water. It's really fascinating, like the business. I've always said the business of entertainment is almost more fascinating than the entertainment itself. Maybe that's just me, but that stuff fascinates me beyond bounds. That's why James and I are so like mesmerized by the Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary, because it's the same thing. It's just the power struggle at Disney in the wake of Walt's death, and how all those pieces fall into play relative to the animation department. But yeah, and so I've been watching this channel called Bright Sun Films that talks about abandoned Disney, and the guy is like obviously a really big like Disney maniac, and so he's been to all these places in one form or another, and he gives a really, and his team give really detailed like backstory behind like this is what the Disney Mowgli's Island was supposed to be, or Disney's Discovery Island, or Euro Disney like almost going bankrupt and sinking the whole company. A really interesting history behind the big business of the theme parks, because the theme parks are so crazy, and like how the advent of Disney getting into cruise lines and stuff. It's very fascinating to me. And I know especially the cruise stuff fascinates me, because as someone who's done extensive engineering work on an aircraft carrier, which is much cooler than a cruise liner, but ironically smaller. These giant cruise liners are actually bigger than even the Nimitz and Ford class aircraft carriers, which is kind of freaky, but you know, in a one-on-one, you know, obviously the aircraft carrier is going to win. Even without the aircraft, it's got quite a few bells and whistles to it. Let's put it that way. I mean, worst case scenario, it could just put its reactors to critical and like fucking nuke the sea around the Carnival ship. I don't know why I picked that brand. It'd be the Disney Cruise Lines ship. That would be so great. That'd be like the what was it? I think it was Ivy Mike test was when they set off the atomic bomb in. They dropped it, and I think it exploded like 100 feet over I think it was one of the old carriers from World War II, And then there were also a bunch of other ships in the area too. It was essentially a Navy test to see, okay, how bad would a nuclear bomb fuck up a carrier group? So you had a carrier in the middle, and I think a battleship next to it, and then there was like a handful of destroyers and frigates around it, like in the standard carrier group fashion. And to put it simply, it fucked them all up bad. Like, a few of them, like, sunk straight up because this is a fucking nuclear bomb versus boat. And then the rest of them were just so irradiated, like, they couldn't even fathom trying to clean it. Like, I mean, if you tried, even if you wanted to like really scrub every surface by like bringing it into dry dock, just the action of bringing it into a dry dock to work on it would like completely fuck up the dry dock for like, you know, years, because this is all like, it's irradiated as fuck. So I think what they ended up doing was just scuttling it and sinking the carrier to become its nuclear watery grave. There's actually a really interesting story about Carrier 66, the USS America, which is America, where when they were done with it, they scuttled it off the coast of I think it was North Carolina. But not only that, it landed upright, so like the deck is still facing like the ocean surface. And the intention of that one wasn't irradiated or anything. That was like in the 80s. But they scuttled it, and then they're turning it slowly into an artificial coral reef, which is actually really interesting. Like, and you know, they sent down like divers or something, and they started planting coral polyps all over the ship, you know, inside the chambers and the rooms and everything, because they like emptied the thing, so it's essentially just a metal husk. It's just the skeleton. Obviously, well, no, that one wasn't reactor. That one was just diesel driven. So so it was very like a clean quote unquote clean ship to be sunk and then used as coral framework. But it's neat. I'd love to see in like 50 years, you know, some 4K like, you know, James Cameron's head in a jar, and also in a submarine documentary of him like filming the inside and out of the USS America with all the coral and stuff growing on every surface. That'd be really, really neat and artsy. Like, you know, that's like one of those Discovery Channel like After Man specials. I should probably go back to the chat again. Have a good night. Yeah, I know. No, you guys can check out whenever. I'm just talking. This stream of consciousness. I'm probably not going to delete this unless like James hates it and deletes it. So you can listen to this whenever you wake up. Happy New Year. We love you guys. Except Needle. Needle hates all of you guys, and you should hate Needle. Just kidding. She's drunk and can't defend herself right now. Yeah, so the proper order to watch Star Wars, of course, is 2, 3, 6, 5, 4, and then 1. If you watch it out of order, the plot is not going to make sense. And, I mean, you could squeeze Rogue One in there too, but it's, you know, it's not really much of a point, because then you're going from 3 to 1, and like, you don't need to put Rogue One in there. Do you think it'd be fun to have a Star Wars Star Trek crossover movie? You know, I would be very interested in seeing an attempt at a Star Wars Star Trek You know what? I have the plan of the Star Wars Star Trek crossover movie is so the scene opens and you've got like, you know, you've got the Death Star 4 or the Death Star 4 / Starkiller 2, and you've got fucking Kylo Ren in there, and he's the Darth Vader / Grand Moff Tarkin character that just runs the ship. And and then like they use it, you know, the advanced technology, and they open up like a super hyperspace doorway, and they pull in the Enterprise, and it docks with the Death Star 4 / Starkiller Base 2. And they like have a new entente about like, okay, So J.J. Abrams has really seriously fucked with both of our franchises, and they like agree, and they open up like yet another doorway, and they both appear in like orbit around like regular Earth, like like, happily ever after movie kind of style, where they both just pop up in the real world and they full on like invade the Earth and take J.J. Abrams and put him and like all of Lucasfilm and whoever was responsible for the Star Trek 2009 movie. They put them all on like the moon or something, and then the Death Star 4 / Starkiller Base 2 fucking nukes the moon with its like super ray, and then the Death Star 4 / Starkiller Base 2 replaces the actual like moon, like Luna, like moon butt, as the moon around our Earth. That would be really great. That would be a great movie, and it would be very satisfying for literally everyone. And the sheer ridiculousness of it would be outstanding. I mean, could you imagine, like, I'm trying to think of a good movie to compare it to like give people an idea. Oh, think of it like an Edgar Wright movie. Like Edgar Wright taken to the absolute maximum next level. Like think of his like end of the world shenanigans at World's End or whatever. And, the up close, like, emotions and battle scenes of Hot Fuzz and the surrealness of frickin' Ant-Man and Shaun of the Dead. And then you pump that shit full of, like, $200 million more dollars. And you have, like, this this He-Man the movie style quest to get personal revenge on J.J. Abrams for, like, screwing with both of their universes. That would be legendary. Oh my gosh. Is this a corporate takeover? You can't have a corporate takeover when you're at the top. I'm here on like the 18th floor, and and frickin' would it be Manhattan? I don't think I've decided on the the canonicity of what's going on at the Manhattan EAST Corp building yet. But like, yeah, I'm on the 18th floor somewhere, and I'm the head zebra in charge, so to speak. Even though I'm not the zebra, this is my floor. I'm on it. It's full of bananas, and Celestia's there too. And this is basically the New Year's after party. So, draw whatever extrapolations as you will. Part of this mood is because I was just watching some DWK. So I think I've got like secondhand DWK. I really ever since James introduced me to him, so to speak. He still hasn't brought him on a podcast or like gotten like actual like introduction, like like Dusty Cat or Dusty or whatever. But like I did, I have fallen in love with the Totally Legit Recap Man series, because as a fellow Californian brony dude brah, I feel this genuine kinship with him on several levels that makes me think we're brothers from Nother's mothers or something. And I feel like we could create some great horse content together. I mean, already two somewhat successful songs have come from inspiration of his videos of mine. So that's a good thing, Yeah, and I just sometimes get in moods like this anyway. It's it's sort of like an afterglow of like a party or whatever. And what was the last time I really felt like this? There was a Christmas party like 5 years ago, and that was when I was in university, and I crossed over like a threshold. Like this is gonna sound really dirty, but it's unfortunately more G-rated than it sounds. It was after a Christmas party, and I had to drive these two girls home, but we were just talking in the car after the Christmas party, and it like literally just in this cul-de-sac. Everything's dark, street lights and whatnot, and it's just the three of us in there. It literally we're just talking in there, quote unquote, until the sun came up, and then we were suddenly like, oh shit, we gotta actually get home now. And yeah, we it was like already 6 a.m. as like it was sunrise, and so we stopped at Starbucks and got everyone like, you know, I don't know why. We'd already made it through the whole fucking night, but like we got Starbucks to like recharge. And luckily it was a Sunday, because it's like a Saturday night Christmas party, you know. So a Sunday we could burn out, reset, and go from there. And yeah, I really wish the story was a lot more, you know, was a lot more college days than it actually was. But it was a fun time. They were cool chicks, and we talked about a lot of random stuff. In our future and stuff, we were all like on the verge of graduating like within the next year. So that was pretty sweet. If you don't like this chat, would you just post it on your personal channel? Yes, I will. I will download this just in case James tries to nuke it after the fact, after they discover what I've done. Luckily, all of them are pretty like non-existent right now, because I mean it's got to be what, like 8-9 a.m. in upside downistan in South Africa. So like he's well, James drinks, so he's probably completely fucking wasted. And Needle, who is in our time frame, who's in our side of the universe, she's also apparently fucking wasted. So it's just me who's only wasted on a spiritual level in this call, and they can't stop me. Not as long as I get it downloaded in time. I seem to always have to try different YouTube downloader sites in different ways. Like I had to update Firefox, and it's like my favorite Firefox, you know, YouTube save video plugin. It like updated or broke on me, so I had to find a new one, and I wasn't sure, so I literally just downloaded like 5 or 6. So I've got all these like download plugins now whenever I use YouTube and Firefox, which is great, because usually only like 3 out of the 5 work at any given time, depending on the websites too, you know, whether it's like YouTube or Dailymotion or some of the other sites. I don't know. There's not too many YouTube competitors, you know, like what the hell, VidMe? You know, VidMe was in such a good position to really challenge YouTube for like video hosting dominance. I mean, not like challenge, but it would be a viable alternative. And then what did they do? Immediately, they adopted all of the totally fucking retarded like censorship and everything policies of YouTube. So the number one potential selling point they would have had, which is we're not going to censor your videos because that's bullshit, they completely threw away like right off the bat. And so guess what? VidMe fucking died this year, which haha, VidMe, you know, you deserve that for not offering anything of alternative to a service that already has giant massive infrastructure throughout the entire internet. It's like one of the top like 20% of all internet bandwidth is YouTube. I mean, you know, probably just Netflix has more, and then it's like Netflix, YouTube, like probably Hulu, but not to much extent. They completely threw that away. No, and so from what I've seen, the next up like challenger, this is like really like David and Goliath type stuff, is the site called PewTube. And I have spoken with the creator of Pew, that's PEW.tube, on Twitter in the past. And he is, apparently he had named PewTube in somewhat honor of PewDiePie, because of the Wall Street Journal, PewDiePie is a Nazi and you should hate him, and he's also a Nazi that you should kill, or fiasco from earlier in the year, which is so great. You know, I love it when this giant corporatist yellow journalist newspaper like the Wall Street Journal finds some random person that they want to take down because they see them as a challenge of their, you know, their fake news pipeline with something alternative. And And what's really ironic is because Wall Street Journal decided to have that little spurg, you know, this takedown moment, BTFO pewds the pie. All they did was signal to PewDiePie's 60 million subscribers how fucking cancerous the state of journalism, or I should say, like, I don't know, corporate, like, old journalism is right now. And, yeah, they probably, like, red-pilled more people on that than even Gamergate. Because, I mean, I don't know if PewDiePie was involved with Gamergate and all that random bullshit, but it's like 60 million people. I mean, think about that. And of course, most of that's within like the West, but that's like other places in the world too that are like, yeah, this is kind of bullshit. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's the and now there's these Iran protests going on, which I hope to God are real. I hope that they're really protests of, you know, strong Persian people that want to change their government for one reason or another. And I really hope to God Almighty that it's not damn CIA bullshit again, like it was in 1953 when they overthrew the previous democratically elected, somewhat moderate ruler of the Persian Republic, and completely like sunk the country for 75 years. And I mean, that bullshit only made their dicks harder to then go into Guatemala and all these other countries and Cuba too, and fuck with them. And you look at CIA successes and it's like, I don't know. It's like if you've got scales, you've got like, what, 150 massive failures to how many successes? I mean, if they would even count 1953 coup as a success, which would be horrible, it wasn't really, because then 1979 rolled around and it was like, oh, this is what happens when you screw with people from the outside when you really shouldn't. And anyway, so back to PewDiePie. So when you need these open lines of communication of real people. And that's something YouTube did more than anything. And now Google is trying to make it just another digital internet network. Like, essentially all these companies are doing, the Silicon Valley shit, is they're trying to turn the new internet, the new media platforms into the same old shit. They want to turn YouTube into the new MSNBC, or standard NBC, and want to turn Netflix into just ABC, and they want to turn, you know, I don't know, well, I guess Hulu would be more NBC, but it's like they want to replace old networks with new networks, which is not the point. It's very much the opposite of the point, where it's like the concept of the internet as a whole is that every single human being can have their voice now. That is the you of YouTube. And it's like, you can't have a you of YouTube if 100 million yous are shut down because their opinion is outside of the properly government-defined opinions of that area. I mean, we don't even have to talk about the West. You could talk about China, you know, where you've got, you know, Mark Zuckerberg rolling up in there and trying to play nice with them and be like, oh, don't worry, guys. I'll censor the internet exactly like you want. Just let me put my Facebook in your 1.5 billion user country so I can get all of that sweet yuans. Or no, what is the Chinese currency called? It's, I almost said Rickenbach. It's got some weird name like that. It's similar to yen, but it's not. And that's like literally evil, and that's on top of the fact that Zuckerberg clearly isn't human anyway. I mean, he's more like, he has more lizard-like qualities than the 1970s like V alien TV show people. I mean, it's like like I expect him like to, when he blinks, his eyelids close the other direction, if you know what I mean, like side to side like a snake. At least he gave us some great memes, like when he's like, he's doing his world tour of like trying to act like a human being, and all the quotes under it is like, here I am at a human animal cooking festival. It's like a barbecue where they have sacrificed the the bull for the evening. It's like a hamburger. It's just or the non-meme, the real world information, how like he bought up a giant chunk of a Hawaiian island, and like all the regular like Hawaiian people around there are just trying to go to the beach, and he like literally walled off a giant section of beach, which I didn't know beaches could. Well, I guess beaches can be private, but this like giant section of beach that like the people in that area would use, and he's like, no, fuck you, I'm here, you know. How often is he there? Like a few weeks a year? Because he works in Palo Alto. I know, because I live down the street from that motherfucker. Palo Alto is such snooty bullshit, by the way. If you're ever there, like, you just walk around, and you don't feel it on the surface, but it's like you sit down in, like, a cafe or, like, a restaurant or whatever, and just listen. Listen to all of them talk, and it's like all of the pretentious Disney, like, oh, rich people are bad. This is coming from fucking Disney, a casino scene from The Last Jedi. Imagine that, but like without any of the artifice. It's really like they just talk about all their crazy stuff. And yeah, it's like, it didn't used to be this way. You know, it's like there was a once upon a time where like every city and state, they had like their own little media companies that were just independent. And that was just fine. You know, not everything was owned by, I guess the old world example would be like, what's his name? Hearst, Randolph Hearst, which is what the movie Citizen Kane is essentially based on the life of William Randolph Hearst, who was like a media magnate in the West Coast. But it's like, I mean, there's still a few pockets, like, I guess Arizona, weirdly, has a lot of independent journalism still, where, like, there's an independent, like, TV station that's, like, broadcasts half the state, and things like that. Not everything was NBC affiliate number 55, or Fox affiliate number 12, or anything like that. There used to be, you know, competition, which is necessary for a capitalist system to function, is that you actually have to have properly controlled competition, and not just like three companies that form an oligarchy to triple fuck you from all sides. Man, those were the days. Does this mean revolution? Yeah. No, it's I don't know what this means. I think it means that I gotta go in a woods. You know the fucking weirdest thing? I didn't know anything about 4chan until I got into Pony. That's how I discovered 4chan, was after and because I discovered freaking My Little Pony, where I essentially was like, this is way back now, 2011, and I watched, because I discovered Pony from the old meme base site, when they had, everyone was getting sick of the pony meme, so they had like segregated their own like pony containment site on there. And one of the memes like got shared into the standard like whatever folder or page, and it was I think I've told this story before. It was a Pink Amina cupcakes meme. You remember cupcakes? Everyone remember cupcakes here? It was one of those memes, and I'm like, what the hell is this, like this pink horse thing? Like my sister, she had like G1 growing up, and I was like, is this now there's a new pony show, I guess? And then I ended up watching the Know Your Meme video, which then it had a slight coverage of the whole 4chan like advent fiasco, where essentially the group of, what was it? It was either on the B board or the Co board, the comics board, I think, or Comics and TV, where they were reacting to the article about like the death of TV animation, and it was that one like Spurg guy who just wrote some shit article about like, oh, they brought back the 80s, you know, the toy marketing TV shows. It's like he probably didn't even watch the episodes. He just like, you know, remembered what some other spurg like him had written about the 1980s show and been like, oh, that's so horrible. And so the board just tore the article like apart. They like just ripped it in half in digitally speaking. And then this group of, shitlords, they started actually like, okay, let's actually watch the show. Does he have any merit, to his thing? And that was ground zero. That was like patient zero of the disease that is bronies. And all of them were like, man, this guy's an asshole. This is kind of good. This kind of like, I feel something inside that wasn't there before. Like, a warmth was now present that hadn't been before in the dark hearts of those shit posters. And and so from there I discovered all the wonders of 4chan, and including the K board, and that's K is a magical place too. So yeah, so you want, when everything starts falling apart, you want to go in a woods. You got to get like whatever weapon is, learn survival skills if you can. Take our Wasteland Survival Guide. That'll be good enough. That's the end game of all the Fallout obsession, is like, it's an ironic preparation for when the world becomes like Fallout. Whether that be like literal nuclear war or something else. And you just find like whatever weapon you can. Like if you're in like America or Serbia, you can get like, the big guns. Or if you're in like the UK, you can get like a butter knife, and you just take that and you go in the woods and you be ready to, hunt wild deer or whatever if you have to. Because it might come to that. I'm sorry, but it might come to that. Because essentially, like, we're living in 2nd century Rome right now, which for all you like historians, it's not the best place to be right now, because when we hit that 3rd century and 4th century, which might not be centuries in this scale, this is a smaller scale than Rome, it's not going to be so good for the rest of us. Essentially, what I'm saying is we need to accelerate things into feudalism, because once we circle back to feudalism, where you've got your castle and you've got your local land, Ancapistan warlord. Then we can form, genial feudal societies around those. And things will be really cool. Like, think of like Fort Independence from Fallout 4. A ton of those just peppering the landscape. That'd be fun. We can have like all those the euphoric sword collectors can pull out their medieval swords and get ready to put them to use again when the last ammunition plants, go dark and can't produce ammunition anymore. Oh my gosh. The Metro series is a lot more realistic in that sense. In post-apocalyptia, ammunition becomes the currency, not freaking bottle caps. That's a little bit of a meme going back to the original Fallout. But ammunition would be the real currency, and it would be scarce. At some point, you would run out of ammo. There would be a few people who would have, like, Federal Reserve gold bullion vaults that they'd probably have a ton of ammo cans that they like kept safe in case of like a post happening. But in the general sense, yeah, you would be living bullet to bullet, and then you'd have that one bullet that you'd have on a necklace or a keychain around your neck, and that's the bullet where when everything else goes too crazy, when you're backed up against the wall and there's no other way out. That's what that bullet's for. Or, it's just for, decoration too. I do have one of those where it's just like, it's drilled out on the back. And so it's just a bullet, like, keychain necklace. It's kind of cool. But it's just like, what is it? I think it's a 50 caliber shell. Or it's not just the shell. The bullet's still in there. It's like, welded in there. It's not like a normal bullet, but the you can get much bigger. Like, I got a Fallout 4 mod of anti-tank rifles, which is really cool. So you've got these like 14.1 millimeter like Russian Pater guns and their associated rounds, and I mean these things are like fucking horse cocks. It's this giant fucking bullet, and I mean, you can't even like turn that into like a necklace unless you really want like some serious like Flava Flav like chains action going on. That's the kind of thing where you cut it off and turn them into shot glasses or something, which would also be pretty legit. Got to check back in the chat. We're down to like 1 or 2 fellow shit posters. I know most of the world is going dark right now. Gonna own Mercenary Company. Yeah, I don't know what I would actually do in a post-apocalyptic society. I would have to try to market my advanced specialized skills in in engineering and try to make myself sound way cooler than I am in in a post-apocalyptic world. But in the general sense, everyone would have to devolve. Or not devolve, but like everyone would have to revert back to like basic skills of like, there's a great chapter in World War Z about this actually, where they talk about like random people have to start learning to be cobblers again, to like fix shoes and put shoes together out of just random leather that they can like rummage through in recycling. And people have to like learn how to just do basic sewing and basic crops and basic like irrigation and water filtering again. And it's like because you're gonna run out of your Alex Jones water filters at some point, so you're gonna have to learn how to make like pebble filters and then boil up that solution so whatever's in there is dead. That's the way to do it. I remember when we released that was early on last year of the Wasteland Survival Guide. See, I can say last year now because it's after January. It's January 1st now. It's early on last year when my clean water episode came out, and someone pointed out like, you don't have to bring it to a rolling boil for 15 minutes. Once it's boiling, it's fine. And I'm like, I know, but the reason I put the 15 minutes is because of very personal family experiences that I've had, which is everyone defines boil differently. For some people, as soon as you see one little tiny like a microscopic fart bubble of a paramecium appearing on the side wall of your kettle, as soon as they see that one bubble, they're like, oh, it's boiling, and then they shut off the fire. And it's like, that is not boiling. Boiling, a full rolling boil, is when like it's a full rolling boil where you've got bubbles constantly popping on the top layer, and the popping bubbles take up like anywhere between 50% to 75% of the surface area at any given moment. That's boiling, where you're guaranteed that every single water particle in that water has reached a proper 100 degrees Celsius, centigrade, whatever. And so the reason I put that in there is just for the sake of those that don't have a good concept of boiling. Because even in my personal opinion, a few random bubbles like drifting to the top and popping like one every second or so, that's not boiling either, as far as I'm concerned. I'm a thermodynamic purist when considering what boiling is. Now, if you're talking about like losing water, you're not going to lose water from like the water vapor of 10 minutes of rolling boil. That's like, it's so minuscule that it's not even worth like accounting for. And then on top of that, the next phase in that step process in the chapter was then removing the scum from the top. And there was different, I forget what we listed in there, like a strainer or like a leaf where you pour off the top layer, and it's just like, you clean that shit off the top just for, posterity's sake. So it looks nice, it's probably fine, but like you don't want it there. You're going to lose 100 times more water from just that last purification than actual water vapor floating away from a rolling boil for 10 minutes. So that's why I put it as like 15 minutes. And of course, this was in the context of like boiling a giant jug of water for like your supply. I think it was for the settlement or whatever. So we're not talking about like, boiling a single kettle of tea, like whatever, James Vermont puts his little teacup in the microwave and boils that. No, this was like, I had in my mind like a 10-gallon pot, like something you could put a whole giant freaking turkey in or something, and all of that water to a full rolling boil. So for that, you want to make sure every bit in there has reached like boil temperature, because you want to be safe. I mean, you might as well. It's a few minutes. You want to really make sure that there's nothing alive in there, because guess what? There's some creatures that can survive that, and especially in like a Fallout tier civilization. You think it would just be the animals that mutate? No, you'd have like some crazy exotherm bacteria that could survive and eat off radiation that could probably survive a full rolling boil and whatnot. I mean, there's real exotherms right now that live on like the ocean floor, and they suck sweet, plutonic juices out of the undersea like steam vents and stuff that from like literally like sub-oceanic magma that just cooks out steam, and they munch on that. There's a lot of fascinating little creatures out there, and what's a great book, if you want to read about some of those creatures, is the Andromeda Strain, of course, the Michael Crichton first classic, Andromeda Strain, where they do talk about exotherms in the context when they're trying to figure out what the Andromeda Strain is. Very fascinating stuff. Probably go exploring. Yeah, no, in the reality sense of a real post happening, like I do unironically have like a nuclear like retreat plan because this is America, and so it's like in a real nuclear war happening, someone is going to shoot at us. Whether it's Lil Cam popping off some 1980s era Chinese rockets that they've cobbled together, or whether it's Pakistan or China or even Russia. Like if somehow like things devolved back to that point again. You want to have an idea of where you're going to go to in case of happenings, and I do have a happenings route of where I would go to. It's a very nice area where there's lots of fresh water and like very fertile, workable farmland, and some roads to get there with vehicles, and places that you could set up little post-apocalyptic settlement family communities. And it's like far away from all of the potential targeting zones of if, several hundred nuclear weapons rain down on the United States. So, it's just those kind of like regular things you do is you plan for total atomic Armageddon. So I think this has been a very, very successful shitposting podcast of Stream of Consciousness. I feel like I've expunged my latent energy. The last, it's like ringing out 2017 and bringing in 2018, which is going to be so freaking crazy. It's going to be so crazy in so many ways, probably, because who knows what's going to happen. But in the context of just the EAST Corp channel, we have a lot of great stuff coming up. I am almost done writing Confession 7. I hope to have that done within this month, and then I am going to look through the submissions that were made for the character, possibly put out like retakes or whatever, or like a secondary process just to really get a good character, and then we'll have that guy start recording and hopefully get Confession 7 out there in like April or something. I really don't want to make a promise because I don't want to like jump ahead of myself, but hopefully April, May or June at the latest. And then my plan for Confessions 8 is pretty solid, and so I hope to have that out by like next fall or Christmas too. And and by that point we're gonna be real close to the end. Part of my break, to be honest, was because I did take like 2 months off after finishing Confession 6 to then write Terminal Secrets 5, because I really didn't want to slow James down, and we had like a really solid like story wrap planning meeting in early October. early October, where we really worked out ideas. And so I put that to use over the course of like a few weeks and got Terminal Secrets 5 written and over to him so he could start working his magic on that. So that's going to come out in the interim. That'll probably be out in, I don't know, maybe March or something. I'm it's not my show. I just write for it sometimes. So that'll come out probably first, and then hopefully Confession 7 not too long after that, and then probably Terminal Secrets 6, the finale, I'm guessing in like September or October, somewhere in the middle, and then probably Confessions 8 after that sometime, and then whatever other final Confession stuff happens, and tentatively, the Wasteland Survival Guide is planned to wrap by the end of next year. We'll see what happens. It might spill over a little bit past next year, or yeah, I guess we are in 2018 now. Holy hell. It might, one or two like finale episodes in 2019, and yeah, the end of Confessions will most likely be 2019 also. So, probably by the spring or whatever. It'll be interesting. And in between it all, we got a lot of fun songs, and we'll have other little one-offs probably, and more fun shit posting kind of podcasts of just all of us hanging out and having fun. We got like another season or two of Pony to enjoy probably, and it might everything might wrap pretty well. It's gonna be good. And, I'm excited for the year. So anyway, to all of our wonderful fans, thank you for sticking with us and for all the financial contributions as well, and Patreon and elsewhere that we put to use right back into good microphones or paying artists and voice actors and everything. It all goes back into making the best productions that we can possibly make. And especially for these last Confessions episodes too. I want to do what James does, because James is very freely buying up art left and right. So I want to put some of our money to work too and get some quality art for Confessions, because I have a lot of interesting ideas for these last few episodes of very, very cinematic looking wallpapers and stuff. And also a happy new year to all of the EAST Corp members, probably literally zero of whom will listen this far into the podcast again. And but if you did, congratulations and hello. And we will talk to you guys later on. From your humble VP of Executive Engineering Operations, SkyBolt signing off.